Welcome back to H-Lock Gaming. In this week's video, we have some visual updates as well as some kit updates for Dracula, Loki, and Raw. Here we're going to start off with Dracula. I will have the skills up in the background, but you'll just see the new skills. As for the first skill, as far as I can tell, it looks like it's the same unless I missed something. So let me know down below if I did miss something, but this one did change here. So before it read, place one stack of bleed on all allies, then convert all debuffs on all allies into additional stacks of bleed. Also place reflect and mend for 2 turns on allies. Now we have place 2 stacks, remove 1 buff from each target. If a buff was removed, place 3 stacks of bleed instead. Okay. Grants an extra turn. Interesting. So no more reflect or mend on the allies. Interesting. Places 2 stacks of bleed on all enemies. Okay. Okay, so you immediately put the stacks of bleed on the enemies instead of placing them on your ally. Then you remove 1 buff from each target. Okay, I think I missed the word each, so it still does remove from multiple targets. If a buff is removed, place 3 stacks of bleed instead. Grants an extra turn. If a buff was removed. Okay. So if you time this right now, it's going to be potentially much stronger because you're not going to put bleeds on your team. But I guess that'll affect how the ultimate works as well, because let me just pull that up in the background and read that real quick. Attacks all enemies 4 times before attacking, consumes all stacks of bleed in battle. I guess we'll see. Well, let's just go and see what it is now. Okay, attacks all enemies 4 times before attacking, consumes all stacks of bleed on each target, and increases the damage inflicted by 8% per stack of bleed consumed. Okay, before it was 4% per stack of bleed, so that's a damage increase there. So I guess they're changing that because before you could, well, no, it still says consumed all stacks of bleed. So you could still use somebody else to help you put bleed up to do even more damage. So, okay, so never mind. That still applies. But yeah, the 8%. I think they're doing that because if we go back, you're not putting them on your team and then essentially ripping them off. But I don't know, this still looks like it's more stacks of bleed and then they up the damage. So I don't know. This just looks like a straight buff to me all around. Let me read the additional part from the old skill. Oh, that doesn't look like that was on there. So also each hit destroys target's HP for 10% of the damage inflicted up to 60% of the target's HP. So I think that's completely new. Granted, I don't have like an old version of the game I'm looking at. I'm just looking at old stuff I have pulled up in the background. Okay. Yeah, I think that's just straight buffs all around. I mean, that seems great to me. Seems like way more damage, right? And it's not like Dracula was bad before. Although I have to test it and see how it kind of works, right? Because now you're just putting them on your enemies. Okay, let's keep going. See the awakening, see if those changed at all. Oh, I forgot about the passive. Let's see. The first time this hero receives fatal damage while not under sleep, prevent the damage and heal to 100%. Play sleep on this hero for 3 turns, which cannot be removed. At the start of an enemy turn, if they are under bleed, increase the damage of this hero's next attack by 10%. At the start of an ally's turn, steal 5% of their current HP and increase this hero's divinity by 2%. Okay, so that's interesting that you're going to steal 5% of their current HP and increase this hero's divinity. So that's kind of, in a way, taking the place of those bleeds you would place on your team. That's sort of a damage to them, right? But 5% isn't huge, but if you don't really have a way to refill that when you're playing with him on your team, you'll essentially kill your own team for the sacrifice of this hero getting to his ultimate quicker, which might not be that bad of an idea, but we'll kind of have to wait and see how this works in practice. But potentially, you know, if you had some type of passive healing going on, however you arrange that, and you just had a bunch of speed on your team, you could essentially bump up Dracula's divinity super quick, you know? So that could be a possible strategy, put in some like passive healing and fast heroes to just get him back to his ultimate quicker, kind of build around that. Okay, so I don't seem to have information on what this used to be, so I don't know if these level ups changed. You know, the skills did change, so you would think this kind of changes, but you know, what do we got? 75 here, so 80, 90, 100, so you can get up to 100%, and then plus 10, 20% more damage. Okay, that's pretty good. So just the cooldown on this, so you can get it down to 3. So we get huge damage increases. What's that? 5, 10, 20, 30. Okay. Wow, that's pretty good. 30% and then minus 100 divinity. Oh, I don't know. Let me see if I have that. The cost. I don't, but I think that's higher now. I think it was 2,000 before. Correct me down below if you remember, but I think that's more expensive now, which also kind of makes sense because it does seem like they made it stronger with the 8% as opposed to the 4. All right, Ascension. I think I do have those. Yeah, so before it was health 4 for rank 1, attack 4%. Sorry if I didn't say that for the first one. For the second Ascension, health 5%, Ascension 3, attack 5%, Ascension 4, rank 5 accuracy plus 10, and then rank 6 critical damage plus 15. And now HP attack, defense 9% for both. Okay, so that's more of those. Oh, dang, the first 3. Okay, so that's way more stats. Accuracy, what did I say it was? 10 before, so you're getting more accuracy, 14. Initiative, assuming what I have here is correct, that's an increase. And initial divinity 200, also a great change. So yeah, those are way better Ascension bonuses than before. And again, Dracula was not bad before, he's just getting stronger. I hope they make a video explaining why they did this. Not that I think it's bad, I think it's great so far. These are all great changes. But Dracula was not bad. You know, I used him pretty effectively for certain things in boss fights, right? And it wasn't that hard to get it to work. So I would kind of like to hear a video on why they made these changes. Again, they are better, but he wasn't bad before to me at all. So I guess let me know down below if you'd like them kind of making a video explaining why they made these changes. But let's get to the awakenings now. So awakening 1 used to be basic ability upgrade. That's all I have. So it might be the same because that is the basic. I'm pretty sure the little skill logo for it. So I don't think that's changed, but I don't have anything other than it's an ability upgrade. All right. Archetype stat boost. I was not expecting this. That's okay. That's definitely different because it used to be initiative plus 15. That one I kind of get why they changed. Initiative plus 15 before didn't really do much. Not that it was bad, but it could have been better. So this one makes sense. Maybe they're doing it that way so they can kind of use it over and over again, right? You know, if you think about the back end stuff, they can apply the same archetype stat boost to the similar characters if they want to do it that way. So I think maybe that's why they're doing it that way. All right, let's see. Awakening 3 ability upgrade. It was a core ability upgrade before, so that appears to be also a core ability upgrade, but I don't know if it's the same. Oh, I do. Yeah, so before was increases the duration of reflect and mend, so obviously that's different. Oh, and I do have it for the first one. So let's go back and look at the first one real quick. So the first one used to be also has a 25% chance to place 1 stack of bleed on a random enemy. Now it's just guaranteed. Okay, so that's the upgrade. Instead of placing it on 1 enemy, it places on all of them. Okay. Armor attunement stat multiplier plus 50. Armor primary stat multiplier plus 30. Weapon stat. Okay. Interesting. So I would assume this is the legendary version of this. And the epic version, this might be 40, 20, 20 or something like that. Okay. And before Awakening 4 was... Where is it at? Divinity plus 200, which we saw now was, I believe, Ascension bonus 6. So that's where that went. That's good because we like that. That 200, I mean, keeping that. And then the last one, ability upgrade. This is the ultimate, I believe. Or wait, no, that's the passive, right? Yeah, that's the passive. So before it was the ultimate ability, now it upgrades to the passive. So at the start of an ally's turn, steal 5% of their current HP and increase this hero's divinity by 2%. Oh, we already saw that. They were showing us a fully awakened hero. Okay. So that is different though. Okay, here we have Raw. All right, before the first skill was attack one enemy. A 75% chance to increase the duration of Blaze by 1 turn. If the attack is critical, activate Blaze on the target. Okay, that looks the same. Alright, the second skill. Attack all enemies with 75% chance to place Blaze 2 for 3 turns. Okay, 75% chance plays Blaze for 3 turns. If the ability defeats an enemy, decrease its cooldown by 1 turn. Okay. Yeah, I don't see that, so that's new. Okay, that's nice. Decrease the cooldown. So I believe this cooldown here is already, what is it? It's pages, scrolls, and tomes, I think. So fully tomed out. I assume it's like 5 like Dracula, but we'll see when we get to that if it's already applied there. All right, so the ultimate was attacks all enemies, 3 times removes all blaze from enemies and allies, and increases damage inflicted by 15% for each blaze removed. Okay. Attacks all enemies 3 times. Each hit has a 35% chance to place defense down 2 and vulnerable 2 on each target for 2 turns. If the enemy is defeated, increase the duration of blaze on all enemies by 1 turn. Gain 20 divinity when enemies are damaged by blaze. So I guess I didn't use Raw a ton before, and that skill was pretty similar to Dracula's skill. It seems like, what are the multipliers before? 125% attack, 75% accuracy. So that is the same. It was all attacks to all enemies before as well. So before, you would remove all the blaze from enemies and allies, increasing damage inflicted by 15%. So in a way, that seems like a bit of a nerf, but since it was very similar to Dracula's, I assume that's why they changed it. It's essentially the same skill using blaze instead of bleed. So now you have this. Oh, and the cost there, $13.65. I don't know if I have the cost before. Oh, I do. It's $14.50. Maybe less damage. You start off with the same 250, but you get extra debuffs that you didn't get before, so that can help the rest of the team. And it costs not exactly, but roughly 100 less, so you can get to it quicker. That one I'm not so sure that's a buff. That's kind of a lateral move, at least on initial inspection. We'll have to see how it plays out. All right, the passive before was heal this hero by 5% max HP each time a blaze is activated. Now it's when any blaze on allies or enemies activates, expires, or is removed. Okay. Increases the damage of the next ultimate by 5%. Also has a 50% chance to activate blaze on. Okay. So that's where they put in that multiplier that used to be removing all the blaze. Okay, so that is an upgrade then. You lose out on healing, which some people may be upset about, but then yeah, that is gonna allow you to keep the blazes, which are gonna do damage, but then when they, activates, expires, or is removed, you get that 5% buff. Okay, So that's where they put the buff. So, okay, so that is a buff overall to the ultimate for sure. Okay, so that is great. I'm loving that. I didn't really have a chance to use raw that much in the alpha, so I don't know how good that 5% healing was. It does look like before you could level it up to almost 20%. That seems pretty good, so that might be a bit of a bummer, but overall this seems like a buff to the ultimate. Okay, so this looks the same as before, no change there as far as the upgrades. Okay, so this one looks pretty much the same, except for maybe the cooldown. Okay, so it was at a 4 and then goes down to a 3. I believe that's what we're seeing here because it was a 3 when we saw it earlier. Okay, for the ultimate, so before it was damage, and divinity cost for the last two. That all appears to be the same, as far as the upgrades, I mean. Okay, so we see the Ascension. Okay, so the first three look similar to Dracula. I don't remember what Dracula's fourth one was. Was his accuracy? I think it might have been. Was it 14? And then the divinity was also 200, but what was this? It was not crit damage. So that's a difference there. Interesting, but again, much improved awakenings. Or rather, before that was where the Ascensions changed, and then this is the Awakening. Okay, so before Awakening was a basic ability upgrade, this appears to be a core ability upgrade. Then increase crit damage by 3% for each blaze, 2 place, maximum of 15 stacks. So more crit damage, that's definitely a buff. So we're seeing the archetype stat boost. So ignore defense, that's pretty good. And the resistance, outgoing damage multiplier, okay. So yeah, that's just straight up buffs all around because, you know, resistance, ignore, you get the blazes on there, okay. And again, if you want to go back, you can kind of see how that compares to the other archetype that we've seen so far. Okay, so before it was also an ultimate ability for Awakening 3. I don't know if it's the same, but it's if an enemy is defeated, increase the duration of blaze on all enemies by 1 turn. Okay, that's very good. I don't know if that's the same. Based on everything else being an upgrade, I'm going to say it probably was not. Okay, gear stat boost. I believe that's the same for Dracula. And again, I assume this is like the legendary version of this. Okay, so Awakening 5 also has a 50% chance to activate Blaze. Okay, so that's the extra part. We did see that. I keep forgetting we're looking at these characters, you know, fully ascended and awake. So that part was the extra part we already saw there earlier. Let's get to Loki now. You can tell too, we'll talk about it later, but you can clearly tell his face has been upgraded. It used to look similar to kind of what you see in the icon that'll be back on screen in a second. Yeah, it looked closer to that, so. Okay, so the skill before was attack one enemy with 75% chance to place charm on a target for 1 turn. Okay, that appears to be the same. I think that has been the case for all of these characters so far. Alright, the second skill was place taunt on all enemies for 1 turn. Also had a 75% chance to place Aether Burn, which if I remember correctly, reduces divinity or something along those lines. It affects divinity. That part I remember. It's a debuff for it. Anyways, for 2 turns on enemies not under disabled. Okay. Now it is place sleep on all enemies for 1 turn. If the target's already under sleep, increase the duration by 1 turn and steal 10% of this target's turn meter. I guess we'll have to see. I don't remember offhand. And again, I know I'm asking a lot of comment down below if you remember, but I don't remember if you're under sleep, if you still get some divinity when essentially you would take your turn, right? So you lose the turn because you're under sleep. You had it for 1 turn. You don't go, and then you wake up. I don't remember if you got divinity or not. I'm guessing you don't, so that's kind of replacing the Aether Burn there because they won't get any divinity. And then you also get to steal some of their turn meter. If the target resists sleep, blocks, or is immune, increase this hero's turn meter by 20. Okay. That's a banger right there. That's great. Okay. So essentially, if you don't land it, you get to go again quicker. Okay, so the ultimate before was attack all enemies with 80% chance to place confuse on each target for 1 turn. If that target is already under a disable, steal 10% of each target's divinity. Attacks all enemies with an 80% chance to place corrupt. I don't remember what corrupt does offhand. I'd have to look that up. On each target for 2 turns, then place vanish and reflect on this hero for 2 turns. Okay. Obviously, vanish and reflect are pretty self-explanatory. We remember what those do. When attacking under vanish, steal a random buff or extend a random debuff by 1 turn. Okay. Gain 50 divinity when inflicting damage to an enemy under sleep. Interesting. Depending how many is left, you can get a good amount of divinity there. Let me look up corrupt real quick. Okay, so corrupt is the unit that placed this debuff steals any buffs received. Duration reduced when triggered. Okay. So sort of a redirect of buffs received. Okay. I did not remember that. So you could buff up your Loki pretty good that way. Oh, and do I have the old cost? 1,600, now 1,100. And more initial, it was 250 before, now it's 350. So that is, again, huge buff here, it looks like. All right, let's get to the passive. See how that's going to make things even juicier. Oh, I could have just waited. They showed corrupt there. Whatever. So before, the passive was, if an enemy under charm attacks this hero, has a 50% chance to place confuse on the enemy for 1 turn. When sleep expires or is removed from an enemy, decrease their turn meter by 20% and place speed down on the target for 1 turn. So Loki was good for control before, but with this passive, if you get that unlocked, man, when sleep expires or is removed, decrease their turn meter by 20% and place speed down. I mean, this is crazy buffs, man. Granted, you're seeing like fully awakened and ascended characters with all this stuff together. And if you compare that to alpha, right, we're not going to be getting that in like a few days like we would in alpha, right? But this makes Loki incredibly strong. Can you just imagine this? So the sleep expires. Yeah, this is just crazy. I don't know what to say. This could be a pain to go against for sure. I can definitely see people trying to set up PvP stuff around this and essentially just locking teams out. But you have to get, this guy fully built up. But either way, very powerful. Again, huge buff, I'd say. Okay. Huh. Weird that they didn't fully tome him out for this. They have 2 million copies. Anyways, so before you awakened it, it was damage, effect chance, damage, effect chance, damage, effect chance. Now it is the same. Is it the same percentages? Yes. Okay. So now it's just a cooldown reduction. So similar to that Drac there. You get it down to 3. Before it was effect and damage, but the skill works completely different now. So that makes sense. Okay, so before it was damage, effect chance, damage, effect chance. That looks about the same. And divinity, cost reduction. Okay, so those upgrades are the same. But obviously the skill is different now. I believe... Well, it's going to be different, but it was a core ability upgrade before, but obviously the skill is different. So if a target resists sleep, blocks, or immune, increased turn meter. Okay, so we saw that. Actually, I guess we saw all these before, so I don't necessarily need to show you them again, but let's just do it for the sake of seeing the other ones we haven't seen, what, 2, the archetype upgrade, or stat boost, not upgrade. So additional, ignore resistance 20%, ongoing turn meter multiplier plus 20, incoming damage reduction plus 20. I wonder too, when we see the gear stat bump, if this is sort of the legendary version that we're seeing the archetype stat boost for all these heroes too. Interesting. I didn't think about that till just now. It probably is though. Okay, I believe that's the passive. It is. And before, it was also a passive upgrade. Also places speed down too. Okay, we already saw that. But a upgrade there. So stat boost again. And then this skill is the what? Ultimate? Yes. when attacking under. Okay, so we saw it again before. Kind of redundant here. One thing though, they did give us an updated picture. They forgot to show us the ascendancy. So give me a second and I'll get to that. Here we go. We got the ascendancies. Again, all this I believe is the same as the other two, except for the speed. This was crit damage for Raw. And like I said, I forgot what it was for Drac, but you can see the pattern here with the stat upgrades, accuracy, and then the speed. Okay. I'd say overall these are pretty strong upgrades. And again, let me know down below, put a comment. I don't know if necessarily anyone from the Godforge or the Fateless team will see it, but if you'd like a video kind of explaining why they did these upgrades for what were seemingly already great characters, right? There is some other stuff, some sort of graphical stuff they gave us in this leak. I think this video is kind of getting long already, so I'm going to put that in a part 2 and we'll just do the kit reveals here. If you're seeing this and you're not subscribed and you made it this far in the video, give me a thumbs up and a subscribe if you wouldn't mind. This has been HLock. Thanks for watching. Bye.